On this episode, I'm going to show you how to make water pie, also known as Depression era pie. This was made during the Great Depression to help stretch out butter, sugar, flour, and vanilla extract. With these basic ingredients, you can make this recipe in your home. To make this pie, the first thing we're going to do is add the sugar to a bowl and add a 1/4 cup of flour. Now I'm using white sugar, but feel free if you wanted to, you could use some brown sugar, light brown sugar, would add a nice caramel note to this recipe. And I'm using a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. The flour is going to help thicken that water, and I'm just going to whisk these together, and that's really the main amount of work this recipe asks for. Also, if you wanted to, you could use whole wheat flour with a little bit of a nutty taste as well. We're using a pre-made pie crust today. Now, pre-made pie crusts have these thin, disposable pie tins on them, so it's different than a ceramic pie tin, for instance, and that's why you may be thinking to yourself, why doesn't this get soggy? And it's because the heat penetrates really quickly through that thin disposable tin. So I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water to the pie. And now what we're going to do is take the sugar and the flour, and we're just going to place that on the top. Now we don't want to stir this around. The next thing we want to do is take about 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and we're just going to sprinkle that around, and that's going to infuse in the pie. And then we're going to take 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I like to use unsalted butter because unsalted butter, you can control the salt in the recipe. I've dotted the butter around, and you can see that it's floating on the surface. Now we're going to bake this at 400 Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. The high temperature is going to cause the dough to get nice and brown and crisp, and then we're going to be lowering that temperature down to 375 for another 30 minutes. What may happen is the edges of the pie may get a little bit too brown, so to help prevent that, you may want to use a pie shield. After about an hour, as you look at the pie, as I shake it, you can see it's still got a wobble to it, but you can see the crust is nice and firm. It isn't soggy. What we want to do is let this come to room temperature, which is going to take about an hour to 90 minutes. And then we're going to refrigerate this for several hours. That's going to help that set nicely because we've got the butter in there and we want that to solidify, but kind of exciting, isn't it? After it's set in the fridge for a couple of hours, you'll notice now that the filling has solidified, so there's no more wobble to it. As we look at the crust, we can see that lovely bronze color to it, and we can see that the butter's set on the top, and then there's little dark spots, and that's from the vanilla extract. So I think what we'll do is take a slice of this pie and see what it looks like on the plate. As I cut into it, you can see that the center's still got a softness to it, almost like a custard pie. We can see that it's solidified and the crust has got a lovely color. My big question always was with this, would this bottom be soggy? And it's not. As we look at the bottom, we can see there's a golden crust that's not overcooked. You can taste the sweetness and you can taste the perfume from that vanilla extract, and then there's still a crunch from the crust.